without further more delay, the secret of getting ahead is getting started. Now we'll start our first session, Introduction to Blockchain, by the coordinator, Dr. P. Kalpana, Assistant Professor, IIIT Kanchipuram. Madam has received a degree in Operations and Supply Chain Management from IIT Madras in India in 2013. She received her master's degree in industrial engineering from PSG College of Technology, Coimbatore in 2007. She associated with operations research consultant in Ramco Systems for 3 years and Ford Motor Private Limited as deputy manager for 3 years. She also has been having the teaching experience of 4 years. Since April 2019, she has been joined as assistant professor in IIIT Kanchipuram. Supply chain management, scheduling, logistics and transportation, inventory planning using mathematical modeling, algorithms, heuristics, meta heuristics, smart supply chain management, IoT and blockchain, advanced optimization techniques, data analytics, A and ML are some of the significant research interests of Dr. P. Kalpana ma'am. Now I request her to continue the first session, Introduction to Blockchain. Ma'am, please.
Thank you, Devganesh, for the introduction. So I will start the session. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So good morning, all again. So this is the introduction about myself. Already Devganesh have given me brief introduction about me. So today's session, I will start with this slide. So this is the statement given by our. Am I audible? Am I audible? My voice is clear.
Yes, ma'am. Clearly.
Okay. Yeah. So this is the statement given by our Honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi. He said, emerging fields including artificial intelligence, machine learning, Internet of Things, blockchain, and big data can take India to new heights of development and improve the quality of life of its citizens. He adds, this is not just an industrial transformation, but a social transformation. So these new technologies, including Internet of Things and blockchain, will help India to address various challenges in education, healthcare, agriculture, job creation, and environmental stability. So with this, I will start my presentation. So before discussing about the basic things in blockchain, let us have a quick look on this industry revolution so that you can understand so how various challenges that current industries are facing can be mitigated or can be eliminated by using this technology. So the first industrial revolution started in 18th century. So before that, people used to make their product by their own hand, and they used hand tools to make their product, and 2 to 3 people involved in making the product. And so nearby their home, they can have their workshops, and these 3 to 4 people will take the whole responsibility to fabricate the entire product. So with this production, they were not able to produce a huge quantity of product, and they were not able to satisfy the customer demand. So over a period of time, as the demand was increased, the concept of outsourcing or the concept of subcontracting to some other people has emerged, and as well as the concept of factory came into picture. So factory is a common place where many people were hired and they were offered to perform some kind of activities or jobs, right? So which increases the productivity furthermore. So in 1784, actually the first industrial revolution started. So during this period, the discovery of steam-powered engines, which increases the productivity of the products, which satisfy the huge quantity of customer demand. So one such example is the mechanized weaving loom produced more than 8 times than its previous version of the machine. Okay, and during the second industry revolution, that is, it started in 1870s. So look at the difference. So it is almost 86 years, right? And after the discovery of electricity, the steam-powered engine were slowly moved with this electrically powered machines, which increases the productivity further. And one of the important contribution during this second industry revolution is Ford Motors moving assembly line. Okay, so because of this, they have achieved mass production, which satisfies the customer's demand. And during this period, the only concentration was to produce more quantity and to satisfy the customer. And they didn't worry about the variety of products to be produced. And this industry revolution is otherwise called as technological revolution. And the third industrial revolution started in 1969. Okay, and through some partial automation it started, and the activities which require repetitive jobs and which has more riskier jobs will be replaced by this kind of automation. And with the help of CNC machines and the programmable logical controllers, we were able to accommodate this automation in many industries. And with the help of industrial robots, we can achieve this automation. And so this automation we cannot fix to all industries, right? Some industries where they require repetitive jobs and where they don't want to have any human intervention, so those kind of industries can implement this automation. Okay, and this revolution is called as digital revolution. And it took almost 100 years to achieve this stage. Okay, and the last one is currently we are in industry 4.0. Actually this term was first introduced in 2011. So now we are in almost we come to the end of 2021, so almost 12 years, right? And so now the introduction of Internet of Things, which converts the industry into smart industries. Okay, so why do we call this as a smart industries? Any idea? So now with the help of Internet of Things, we are able to connect many things in the sense many devices. So by connecting devices, we are able to take a huge quantity of data from the devices, and we are able to communicate between the devices. So now this introduction of this Internet of Things converts the industry into a smarter one. Okay, and there are the other components or other techniques which involves in industry 4.0 are listed here: simulation, system integration, Internet of Things, cyber security, cloud computing, additive manufacturing, augmented reality, and big data. So actually this industry 4.0 adoption report, so they have identified 17 such techniques which enables industry 4.0. So look at this adoption rate. Actually this was discovered during 2011. So now if you look at the adoption rate of industry 4.0, automotive industry secures 36%, and which is the highest value. And metals and mining 29%, energy and industry it has 26%. Look at the numbers. Even though this automotive has the highest value, but if you look at the number, they have achieved only 36%. What could be the reason for that? They even haven't touched 50%. So there are many challenges for adopting industry 4.0 because of various reasons. And some of the challenges for adopting industry 4.0 is listed here. Implementing data transparency. So data transparency means visibility of data across different departments within the organization as well as outside of this organization. And the decentralized decision making process. So if you take any industries within the particular organization, you may have n number of departments, right? And those departments can take their decisions on their own. So they won't have any centralized decision making process. And so this is one challenge for adopting this industry 4.0. And interconnectivity. Interconnectivity is connecting devices, interconnecting the devices. So if you look at one of the popular automotive industry, which has more than 120 years of market experience, they just started to connect the devices. Actually, they have their own standalone machines. They are able to produce a lot of data, and they don't have the facility to retrieve the data from the machines. Okay, so there are a lot of challenges to retrieve the data from the machines. So they started to implement the concept of Industry 4.0 in 2019, even though they have 120 years of market experience. And ease of data exchange automation. So here this automation is not the automation which we talk in Industry 3.4. So this is the automation of several process which support manufacturing process. And not only manufacturing process, other process as well. And then informed decision. So with the help of IoT, you are able to retrieve huge quantity of data, but you have to apply the appropriate artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithm to get more informed decisions, right? And the traceability in supply chain. So this concept we will discuss in later in the coming slide. And secure the data collected via IoT. So the main so in Industry 4.0, Internet of Things plays a major role, right? So there are various challenges exist in implementing IoT. One of such challenges is DDoS attack, distributed denial of services. So what does it mean is there is a bot. So bot is the program which can be used for automating some process. Okay, 1 minute. This is DDoS, that is distributed denial of service. So it is a kind of bot which is created by the hackers. And so actually bot is the program which helps to automate various process. And there are some bots which are really beneficial to many services. But there are many bots which are malicious bots. And predominantly these hackers use this malicious bots in IoT devices. So with that, these malicious bots will unnecessarily create some request to a particular website or a particular web services. So this will sometimes you may get difficulties in accessing that particular website. And the dependency on centralized server. In case of IoT, you can collect the data from different devices and you can put it in a common cloud server. Suppose if anything happens to the server, you cannot retrieve the data. So this is one of the major challenge in adopting Industry 4.0. And with the help of blockchain technology, you can solve many of these problems. As Dr. Sudhir mentioned, we cannot solve all these problems with blockchain technology. So we have to identify where we can apply blockchain technology and where we can use this blockchain technology to solve the problems. So we have listed many challenges for adopting Industry 4.4, we can address few challenges with the help of blockchain technology. Okay. So now, before looking at the blockchain technology, we will discuss the history of blockchain technology first. And actually, this technology was introduced in 2009. Okay, so during that time, there were many issues with the banking system. And to resolve the banking system, they introduced this blockchain technology. So some of the issues in banking systems during that time was high transaction fees. So now we have transaction fees, but which is very lesser amount. For example, for transferring 10,000 rupees, we may be charged with 1 rupees or some 2.5 rupees along with the GST, right? But during that time, the transaction fees was very huge. If you look at in 2016, okay, in 2016, three popular banks in America, they collected around $6 billion, $6 billion for this ATM as well as check transaction fees. Okay, $6 billion. So this is a huge amount, right? And suppose if you want to transfer some 100 rupees, you have to pay some money for transacting your amount to your sender. So that is one issue. The second issue is private ledger. Suppose if you have deposited your money in a bank, will you be able to see your ledger? And can you transfer the amount to any one of your friend directly from your account? Is there anyone monitoring your account or not? In India, let us take India. Anyone, please? can we directly transfer account from money from our account to some of your friends directly, or it will pass through some third party or some entity? In India, who is controlling the transactions of money?
In India, RBI is controlling the transaction, I guess so.
Very good. So in India, to transfer money from one member to another member, you have to pass through RBI, right? So you cannot directly send money from one person to another person. So we have a centralized ownership now, and you have deposited your money, and can you see where the money is invested? You are getting some interest on behalf of your deposit, but can you do you know the information about where your money is invested? Do you know? You have, suppose if you have deposited some 10 lakhs rupees, and definitely bank will invest those money to some either it may give us a loan or some stock markets like that, right? So do you know the how your money is utilized?
No, we don't know.
We don't know, right? So it is a private ledger. Even if you have deposited a huge amount of money, you are not able to access how your money is utilized. Okay, so that is one problem. And double spending. For example, I have 10,000 rupees in my account. I have 10,000 rupees in my account. At the same time, suppose if I give two checks to my friends with for one person, I'm giving 10,000 rupees. For the other person, I will give 25,000 rupees as a check. But actually, I have 10,000 in my account. So now, how these persons will know whether I have enough money in my account? Will you know that whether I have enough? Actually, I should have 35,000, right? Then only your account will be credited with this amount. So at the time of issuing the check, will you know that whether I have the enough balance in my account or not?
No.
No. So after depositing the check in the bank, so once the checks are not cleared, then at that time point and only you will understand that I don't have enough money in my account. So double
Actually, we
spending,
should know beforehand that before issuing any check, we should know. But most probably, we are not aware about that.
yeah. So what is the reason for that? You don't have the you don't have the access to see my account balance, right? So double spending is a kind of this kind of problem. It means that with the single transaction ID, you can use the single transaction ID for multiple purpose. That is called as double spending. Okay, so after depositing only, you will come to know that I don't have enough money. And financial depression and no transparency. For example, in recent days, you may have heard many news like this particular industry is declared as a bankrupt, right? And immediately after that, many of the in our participant, we have experts from banking industries. They might have known it. So if certain number of industries are declared as bankrupts, immediately who will be getting impacted? Obviously, the banks who gave loan to them, right? So in this case, suppose if you take a regular salaried employees, suppose if you want to apply for a banking loan, approximately how long will they take to accept your application and sanction the amount? Just some approximate numbers. You are a salaried employees and you are applying for a housing loan, and you have to submit lot of documents, right? Even after submitting lot of documents, and you have to give some proof that you have this assets in jewels or some houses or some lands. All those documents you have to provide. So till then, they will take some time, right, to sanction the order. And for some of us, they simply rejected the application, right? So they are strictly following the rules and regulations for these cases, but still for many industrialists, they are not able to return back the loan amount, right? So what could be the reason for that? Why this is happening? Any idea on this? They are getting loan with crores and crores, and they are simply going to some foreign countries.
We really don't know what the collateral is really worth.
Yeah, so we don't have the transparency. What is going inside the bank? So that is the one of the major issue. And the bank fraudulent. Yes.
It's probably about the misuse of the funds which is lended.
Very good.
And during the primary screening of the ownership of the properties or the financial statements, there starts the failure. So
Yeah.
the lack of transparency is not there when it comes to the system.
Very good. So even though they submitted the documents, we don't know the genuinity of the documents, right? Whether they have submitted their original documents, whether the assets are real or not, we don't have any information on that. So finally, who will be getting impacted? The persons who are depositing money for their retirement age, they are suffering a lot because of this. And many people are getting huge amount of loan, and they are simply going out of the country without giving back money to the bank, right? So this is the reason. The major reason for this is no transparency in the banking system, right? And bank fraudulent. So this very frequently many of us faced this one. Immediately somebody called us, and we have given you some kind of offer, tell this OTP like that, right? And so this is another problem with banking system. And so because of these, so to avoid these issues in the banking system, the concept of Bitcoin was introduced in 2009. So actually this was introduced by Satoshi Nakamoto, and the person's identity is not yet till unknown. And some people are saying that he is a single person, and some people are saying that there are a group of people who invented Bitcoin, right? And so this Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency, and now currently in market we have many Bitcoins many cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, and then Dogecoin. So there are many cryptocurrencies available in the market, right? And so this Bitcoin is not a digital currency. Okay, this is a digital currency is completely different from cryptocurrencies. So digital currency is similar to that of our hard cash, but whatever we are doing online transaction, that can be considered as a digital currency. But this is totally controlled by the government of any country. Okay. So in India, we have a digital currency that is called as that is offered by Central Bank of Digital Currency. Okay. And the value of digital currency won't change over a period of time, but Bitcoin, the value of Bitcoin changes daily. So it is completely unstable. If you know that on Friday, I think the value of Bitcoin was more than $56,000. But on Saturday or yesterday, I think the value of Bitcoin has reduced to $46,000. Okay. So the value of Bitcoin changes over a period of time. And some of the benefits of using this Bitcoin or any cryptocurrencies are there is no centralized power. So here, so in the banking system, whatever currently we have, there the entire transactions are done through RBI. So we have a centralized power which monitors all transactions. But in Bitcoin, there is no centralized power, and the participants who are all part of this Bitcoin transaction will have their own ownership. And the second thing is there is no private ledger. So in this case, whatever transaction happens in the blockchain, everyone can see the transaction. So there won't be any kind of these kind of double spending or bank fraudulent, and completely all the transactions will be monitored. So completely it is transparent. Okay. And it is prone to hacks, and there is no double spending. So these are all the benefits of Bitcoin. And the technology which enables this Bitcoin transaction is called as blockchain. And Bitcoin is not a blockchain. Blockchain is a technology which enables Bitcoin transaction. Okay. So now we will see what is blockchain and the basic concepts of blockchain. in the context of Bitcoin. Okay, but not this blockchain is not only used for Bitcoin transaction. This is used for other purpose as well. So all those things we will discuss in the upcoming slide at a higher level. Okay, and yeah. So in this slide you can see the features of blockchain. So first and important one is it is a distributed and decentralized ledger. Decentralized ledger. So ledger in the sense the basic common ledger is, let us take a ledger. Okay, and it has the bare minimum informations like date and what is the detail. What is the detail in the sense, for example, if A sends or gives money to B, and here you will have a basic columns of credit and debit. So these are the bare minimum information that you can see in the normal ledger, right? And so this is a page of a ledger, and a ledger is a book. Let us consider the book as a ledger, and you may have some 1,000 pages or something. And in each ledger page, you may have some 25 lines to 35 lines. Okay, 25 lines to 35 lines. So once the ledger is filled, the page is filled, what will happen? You will turn the other page and you will start to write the particulars. So here, these activities, whatever we are performing here, okay, you are either you can send money or you can do some activities. So all the particulars will be considered as a transaction. And here, if it is a money transaction, whether it is credited or debited, all these informations will be given, and the time and date will be noted here. Okay, so this is a ledger. And if you take a banking system, the ledger is a centralized one. But in case of blockchain, let us have, there are some 30 transactions in this page. So distributed means this page or all the transactions in this ledger will be distributed across all the participants in the blockchain. So actually blockchain is a network, right? So blockchain is a network means you may have nodes or peers like this. Nodes or peers like this, and these box indicates computers. Okay, suppose if you are a participant of if you are using Bitcoin for your transaction, you will be also a participant of this blockchain network, right? And this is distributed and decentralized means all nodes are connected with like this. All nodes are connected with each other. All nodes are connected with each other, and the copy of these transactions, the copy of transaction will appear for all the participants in the network. Okay, you cannot do any modification, and the entire copy will be distributed across all participants in the blockchain network. Okay, so that is it is called as distributed network, distributed digital ledger. So this is called as distributed digital ledger. Okay, and the second one is anonymous. Anonymous means the identity of the participant is either you cannot identify the participants in the network. For example, suppose if I have a blockchain account or if I have a Bitcoin account, suppose if my husband is also has a big Bitcoin account. So in the blockchain network, I could not identify the participants. That is my husband's identity, because everything is all identities will be converted into a hash code. So it is very difficult to identify the identity of the participants. Okay, I will show the demo for this, how the sender's name will appear, how the receiver's name will appear after this slide. And so the identity of the participant is completely anonymous. And third one is timestamp. So whatever transaction you are doing, everything will be timestamped. So that you can trace the events, trace the activities, and you can trace which activity happens at what time. So all those things you can understand. And unanimous means, for example, suppose if you want to transfer amount from your record to your account to some other person's account. So in this case, so here we discussed, right, this double spending concept of double spending. So whenever a transaction happens, everything will be validated and verified by the participants in the blockchain network. So we have a huge number of participants in the blockchain network. Suppose if you want to transfer an amount to some of the account, then the validity of that account will be verified by all participants in the network. For example, suppose if I want to send some 100 rupees to my friend's account, then immediately the participants will check whether I have 100 rupees in my account or not. So if it is valid, then only the transaction will be completed. So that is called as unanimous. And immutable. Immutable means in the digital ledger, you have a list of transactions, right? And once the transaction is added into the blockchain, it will be permanent. So you cannot go and erase, or you cannot change the value, and you can only append the records or append the transactions into the digital ledger, and you cannot do any modification. So that I will show you in a demo in the upcoming slide. And secure. Yeah. So here I told that all transactions, including the identity of the persons, will be converted into hash code, right? So it is very difficult to identify the hash code, and so that is why it is called as secure. So you cannot encrypt the data, decrypt the data. Okay, and it is a programmable one. Various rules, business rules you can frame. So you have to write a piece of code to automate different processes. So we have a separate session for how to create a smart contract. It is going to be a hands-on session, and so you will be able to, at the end of this course, you will be able to create smart contracts in blockchain. Okay, so these are the special features of blockchain. And any doubts in this slide? Shall I move to the next slide?
Yes.
Yeah. So now we will see what is blockchain. So first, let us see what is block. It is a collection of all recent transactions that have happened and verified. So this is important. That is verified. Each transaction is verified, and in each block you have a list of transactions. And if you look at each block, you will have these three informations. One is data. Data in the sense transaction data. Block hash. So for each block you will have a hash, and hash of the previous block. So with this help of this one, that is hash of previous block, you will be able to track the various activities. Okay, and this block hash is the combination of, so this is the combination of data, nonce number. So nonce means number only used, number used only. Okay, nonce number. So data in the sense list of transactions, and sorry, this is the current hash, right? And hash of the previous block, so plus hash of the previous block. So this block hash is the combination of data, nonce number, and hash of the previous block. Suppose if you want to change any of the data, so this will affect the hash code of the current block hash. Okay, and in transaction, for example, if you take a Bitcoin transaction, so you will have these three information. That is public key of senders, public key of receivers, and the how much amount that you are transferring. Okay. For example, suppose if I want to send a mail to you, what is the basic requirement? Suppose if I want to send just a mail to you, what is the basic requirement that I should have?
My mail address.
Very good. So I should know your mail address, as well as I should have my mail IDs, right? So, but I don't require your password, right? But to check the mails, whatever I received, I need my password to check my mails. But for sending the mail, I need your mail address alone. Similarly, in Bitcoin transaction, to transfer amount from one person to another person, I need the public key of that person. Okay. And but to open my account or to check the balance in my account, I should have my private address, right? A private key, that is called as private key. Instead of password, you can replace it with private key in terms of blockchain. Okay, and so these are the basic transaction information available in each block. And so here note that this back block hash depends upon all these data. If you make any changes in any one of this, completely your block hash will be changed. Okay, so this is the basic information about block. And in blockchain means sequential chain of cryptographic hash linked blocks, the link of blocks, right? And so the first block is always, so there will be a first block. Okay, the first block doesn't have any transaction details, so the transaction detail is 0, and it doesn't have any current hash, that is block hash, but so this will have previous hash. So sorry, this will not have previous hash. So previous hash will be 0, and this will be some current hash. So this is the starting of the blockchain. This is called as Genesis block. Genesis block. And this will not have any transactions. So after that, you can have whatever transactions you have, that will be recorded in the subsequent chain of blocks. Okay. And so here, each block is linked with the previous hash block. Suppose if you want to trace some information in this block 1574, and currently you are here, current block is 1576. And if you want to trace some information in this block, you cannot directly jump into here. Okay, you have to pass through this block, with the help of this previous hash, and from here you have to come to this block, and you can check whatever details you can have. So in blockchain, the thing is, you can view the activities, you can view the transactions, and you can append the transactions after getting verified by the members in the blockchain network, and you cannot modify anything in the existing transactions, because each and every transaction is permanent. You cannot change, but you can append, you can view. This is the privilege you have. Okay. So this is the basic thing about blockchain. And so here we discussed, right? So here the capacity of this ledger is limited by the number of lines. Similarly, each block has the maximum capacity of 1 megabytes. So now they have increased. So generally the capacity of the storage capacity of each block is 1 megabytes. For each Bitcoin, this will take 250 bytes for each transaction. 250 bytes. So totally, how many transactions that one block can accommodate? The capacity or storage capacity of each block is 1 megabytes. And if you take Bitcoin transaction, this will take 250 bytes. So how many transactions that we can have in a Bitcoin blockchain? One block. Approximate number?
4.
1 megabyte. Here we have 1 megabyte.
Sorry, it's 4,000.
4,000, very good. So approximately we can have 4,000 records in a Bitcoin blockchain, in a block of a Bitcoin blockchain. Okay, and every 10 minutes, one block is added to the blockchain. Every 10 minutes. So approximately per second, 7 transactions happen in blockchain. Okay, and yeah. Any doubts in this? So if you look at the Bitcoin, so we don't know who created this Bitcoin. Okay, till now that is a question mark. There are some entities who are creating Bitcoins, right? And in case of our normal currency, we cannot create, right? And in Bitcoin, they have a limit of $20 million of 20 million Bitcoins they can create. Okay, and in September 2021, we have reached 8.82 million Bitcoins. Okay, and they have a rule that the last Bitcoin will be revealed in 2040 only. But we don't know the scientific reason for that, because we didn't know any information about the creators of Bitcoin. And in India, still we haven't get any approval for this Bitcoin transactions. And yeah, so here, look at here, this is a blockchain. And in blockchain, we told that all nodes are nothing but all participants in the blockchain will have the copy of the digital ledger, right? Suppose if you take, this is peer 1, this is peer 2. Okay, and this is the distributed ledger. Let us have this tier one as me. I have this ledger, and any one of the participant, you may have this copy of this ledger. Suppose if you want to change any information in this block, automatically, as we said earlier, the block hash is the combination of data of transactions, nonce number, and the hash of the previous block, right? That will immediately change the hash block value. Okay, so if it changes the hash block value, immediately the chain link will break, because the each and every block is linked to the previous link with this previous hash code. So these current hash code of block 2 should be equal to the previous block hash of block 3. If there is any change in this, then immediately the chain will block. So in this case, suppose if this person wants to make any change, then clearly it indicates that there is a breakage in this link, and immediately this person who is changing the block will be caught. So it is very difficult to change any data in the blockchain. So that is why we are saying that this is completely secure. Okay. And so now we will see how this blockchain transactions happens in a blockchain. For example, suppose if I want to send the money from my account to my friend's account, suppose if I have a Bitcoin account, okay, that transaction request. So I want to send money from Pooja with some 10 Bitcoins, okay, 10 Bitcoins. So this is the information. So this information, so now I have put Kalpana, Pooja and 10 Bitcoins. So these information will be converted into a hash code. Okay, so no one can see who is the sender and who is the receiver and how much amount I'm sending. Okay, and so these three information will be converted into hash code. And so similarly, some more participants may send their transactions, right? So the group of transactions as a
Excuse
block.
me, ma'am. Excuse me,
Yes.
ma'am. The audio is breaking in between.
Is it clear now? Is it clear now?
Ma'am. Yes, ma'am. It's better now.
So the transaction information as a hash, that is important. The transaction information as a hash code. Okay, I will show you how the hash code is created. The transaction information as a hash will be disclosed to all the participants in the network. So here the nodes are nothing but the computers who are doing Bitcoin transactions through this account. And here you have a you have a centralized ledger as well as distributed ledger. And the participants in the blockchain network first will verify the validity of your transaction. Suppose if I want to send some Bitcoins to Pooja, then they will check whether I have enough balance in my account. Okay, so so this information is broadcast to all participants in the network. Among all the participants, there are some persons called miners. Okay, miners, M-E-N-E-R-S, miners. They will do mining process, right? So mining in the sense they try to get my private key, and they try to get the account details of me. And if I have enough balance in my account, then they will validate my transaction or request. Okay, and here there are n number of nodes, and some of the nodes may be a miners. And suppose if you have a Bitcoin account, you could also play a role of miners. Okay, the thing is here their role is very, very important, because they are validating each and every transaction. For that, they have to spend a lot of energy. As in the inaugural address, as Dr. Sudhir said, it involves lot of power consumption. Okay, so that we will discuss. So for example, suppose if I want to validate one Bitcoin, suppose if I am a miner, I want to validate one Bitcoin, I have to spend approximately 1500 kilowatts of electricity power. And I should use my skills to identify my private key. Okay, My private key means my password of my account. Okay. And so this involves lot of power consumption, and they will do some mathematical puzzle solving to identify my address, private address or private key, and they will validate whether I have enough money in my account. So once they verified it, then they will send the solution for the mathematical puzzle. That means that, for example, that is called as proof of concept that we will discuss in the upcoming slide. So along with the transaction details, they will send the proof of work. That is called as proof of work. Okay. And so this proof of work is sent to all participants or all miners in this network, and all miners means so here all miners will try to find out my private key. Suppose let us have there are 10 miners in the blockchain network. So all miners will try to find out my private key. But the miner who first identified my private key will be the winner. So he will be rewarded with some bitcoins. Okay. And once the miner who identified my private key, he will send the transaction as well as this proof of work to other miners, and all other miners, with the help of this proof of work, the all other miners will validate again. They will validate my transaction. Once they verify and validate it, then that particular transactions will be added into the blockchain. And once it is added into the blockchain, then it will be distributed to all other members in the blockchain. Okay, so this is how this blockchain is working. And so for every transaction, not for every transaction, for adding one block into the blockchain, the miners will get a reward of 12.5 bitcoins. Okay. So for today's market rate, one bitcoin may have a value approximately $45,000. So think about how much reward he is getting. What is the reason for that? Because for each and every transaction, he has to spend this money to consume this energy, right? So they will be rewarded for validating each and every transaction. Okay. So this kind of mining is required for Bitcoin transaction. But for other applications, applications in blockchain in healthcare industry or manufacturing industry, they don't require this kind of mining process. They simply require the consensus mechanism. It means that the approval of the participants in the network. Okay, this mining is required only for this cryptocurrency transactions. Okay, and there is one more thing. For example, for validating and approving the block to be added into the blockchain, at least you should have 51% of approval. Okay, 51% of the miners approving this transaction, then only the transactions will be added into the blockchain. Otherwise, it will not be, that particular transaction will not be an approval one, and that will not be added into the blockchain. So we will see some of the features and features of the blockchain. The first one is SHA 256 algorithm. So we talked from the first slide itself, we talked about the entire transaction, the sender's ID, the receiver's ID will be converted into hash, right? And to converting the data into hash code is nothing but it is a hexadecimal code. Hash code is a combination of hexadecimal code. So in hexadecimal, what are the characters will appear in hexadecimal? Characters in hexadecimal. 0 to 9, A to F. Okay, so hash code is the combination of 0 to 9 and A to F, and SHA is nothing but secured hash algorithm. SHA, secured hash algorithm, and 256 is bytes, number of bytes. And so this hash function transform the data or sender's address or receiver's address into a unique code. So this is like a fingerprint. Okay, so no one can use your fingerprint to open any one of your wallets or not. And so whatever data you have, this SHA 256 algorithm will convert the data into a hash with 64 digits. So this is a fixed length. So this is a picture link. Okay. For example, suppose if I give you a suitcase and within the suitcase there are a lot of valuable items are there, and the suitcase is locked with a number lock, and the number lock has some 5 numbers. Okay. So I have set some number, and simply I have given that suitcase to you to open that suitcase and to verify whether I have valuable things inside or not. How many combinations of numbers that you have to try? For example, suppose I have a 5-digit. The lock has five numbers, 5-digit numbers. I have set some number, but I'm asking you to find out your open that suitcase.
9C5.
Breaking the one way is you can directly break the suitcase and you can identify whether the valuables are there or not. The thing is, you have to open by finding out the correct key number. So how many combinations that you have to try?
10C5.
10C5? Is it correct? So what does the 10C5 means? Let us take numbers are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 like that. So how many combinations that you can create? It varies from 2, 3 like that, right? So you have to try with various possible combinations. 2 power 5, am I correct?
Correct, man. 2 power 5.
2 power 5, right? Similarly, to identify the private key of the sender or receiver, you have to find out the correct number, correct input to get the same hash code that the transaction has. So I will explain you as a demo. Look at here. You just keep it in mind. So you have to, as a miner, this is a miner's job. Miner has to identify the private key value by solving the mathematical puzzle. One way to find out the mathematical puzzle is you can randomly generate some numbers and you can find out the private key of any participant in the blockchain. But the thing is, in Bitcoin blockchain, the possible combinations of the private key and public key is 2 power 160. So what is the number for this? 2 power 160. 2 power 5 is 32, and then 64 and 128. Like that you have to go. So what could be the number? Very difficult to find out this number, right? So it is very difficult to randomly generate the correct number to get the correct hash code. Okay. So we need specialized skill to identify the private key of any participants in the blockchain. And look at here. So this is a hello world. For this given input, this is the corresponding hash code. Okay. So here there is only one slight change. Hello world exclamatory mark. So look at the change in the hash code. Can you trace where the changes happens here? So this is the hash code created by this SHA 256 algorithm. So this is the let us take this is the transaction data. For this transaction data, with the help of this SHA algorithm, you will get a hash code. And simply, you take this link. I will send you the link. You just try along with me. Try to open this link. Have you opened this link? So here, you can see this this particular space, data space. So here you can feed the transaction data. So there is no data here. It is an empty space. So for this empty space, this is the hash code. For the empty space, this is the hash code. It has whatever data you can give. this SHA-256 algorithm will give you a hash code of fixed length of 64. Suppose if I just type 1, will you see the changes in the hash code? And can you find which digits have got the changes?
All are changes, madam.
All are changing, yeah, but you cannot track where the changes happens, right? Just along with 1, just I'm adding this dot. Just look at this. Along with this 1, I'm adding 1. Sorry, a dot. Completely all digits are changing. Okay, and here. I'll take the complete paragraph. Here. How many data you want to give? You will get a 64 hash code of length with 64, right? So this is the speciality of this SHA-256 algorithm. Whatever the data size you given as an input, you will get a 64 digits of hash code. Okay, and you cannot trace where the changes happens. Okay, so this is how this entire data transactions, whatever your sender's ID, for example, if it is my ID. This will be my sender's ID. This will be my ID. And if you give your email ID, you will get some other ID. But this ID will be given to the blockchain. Okay, you don't know whether it is a Kalpana or some participants from this FDP, right? So the only thing you can see in the blockchain is only this hash code, and it is very difficult where whatever changes we make changes in this data, it is very difficult to identify where the changes happens. That is why we are calling this blockchain transaction is more secure. Okay. And, yeah. So this is the second important feature of blockchain, public key cryptography. So with the help of yes, please.
See, you shared the URL, right? When you give some input, it generates a code, hash code.
Yeah.
Of 64-bit length. See, will it be unique? See, if I key in hello in that, and if you key in hello, and we both key in only in small letters,
okay,
will it be the same unique code which we generate?
Yeah, both will be same.
Okay, so universally it's the same.
For example, you just type the same ID I have given here, kalpana@medium.ac.in. You just type it there, you can find the same.
Okay.
But the problem is you will be given with the hash code, but the minus job is you have to identify this is kalpana@medium.ac.in. That is the job of the minus. But for minus, this hash code will be given. He has to identify the correct input, which will create a hash code which is equivalent to this one. That is what we will be discussing in this slide.
Okay.
Okay. And so we said, right, for example, so now this is my address. Let us take, this is my address. This is my address. For example, Kalpana. Suppose I have my password like this. So look at this hash code for my password. I know this is my password is Kalpana @81 and the K is capital K. This is my password, but I know this password. And whenever I send a transaction, okay, transaction means so just look at this data. This is the hash code. This is the hash code for my password. Password in the sense private key of my blockchain. Okay, and yeah. Now I transfer some amount. So my account is kalpana@ethereum.ac.in and my password private. This is my public key. At IIIT DM. And my password or private key is capital K. So here it is case sensitive. Okay, Kalpana double at 81. This is my password, right? And so here I am sending to some XYZ at gmail.com. Okay, and I'm sending some 100 bitcoins. So this is the transaction. Let us take this is the transaction. So now this transaction, this detail, these three details will be converted into a hash code. These three details will be converted into hash code, and that will be broadcast to all the miners in the all nodes in the blockchain, right? And so this private key also will be transferred as a hash code. Now I have two hash codes, hash code 1 and hash code 2. So you know how the hash code is forming, right? So this transaction is one hash code. My private key is in another hash code. Okay, so this is otherwise called as digital signature. So these information, hash 1 and hash 2 will be broadcasted to all the participants in the network. Here, all participants in the blockchain network need not be a miners. There could be some miners who has to find out a number, look at here, who has to find out a number or some text, okay, number or some text, which will create some hash, okay, which will create some hash. Let us take hash 3, and which this hash should be equal to this hash. If they are arrived to find out the hash which is equal to this hash, then they will be able to see my account. Is it clear? Hash code will be given. Okay, hash code will be given. Their job is they have to identify the correct input. So as we said here, they have to identify the correct combination of input. Okay, so for which combination of the input, they will get this hash, which is equal to this hash. Then we can call this miner is able to open my account. Okay, this is the miner's job. So finding out this input is called as mining. Okay, they have to do a lot of algorithms, solve a lot of algorithms, and they have to find out a lot of possible combinations of characters to find out this exact input, which will create a hash which is equivalent to this hash. Is it clear how what miners are doing? So once this hash, the created hash and this hash is equal, then they will be able to access my account.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, can you please repeat this last concept?
So this is my sender's ID. This is my public address, and this is yours public address. Okay, I'm sending 100 bitcoins from my account to your account. So this is not while sending this information to blockchain, this information will be converted into hash code. Is it clear? This combination, private key, public key, and so public key of sender, public key of receiver, and the quantity of bitcoins.
Yes.
Okay, is it clear?
Yes,
This
ma'am.
will be hash 1. And the private key of mine. Private key of mine means my password. My password is capital K Kalpana double at 81. This is my password. This is known to me. But while sending this transaction, I will attach my digitally signed key along with this transaction. So the hash 1 will go along with the hash 2. Hash 2 is the hash code of my private key. So this is the transaction data. This transaction data will go along with this hash to different participants in the blockchain network. That is here. Here. It will be broadcast to different participants. And some of the participants may be the miners who is going to find out my private key. My private key means they have to identify the hash code. They have to identify the hash code. here they have to identify that the input for this hash code is Kalpana at 81. Okay. For this, they have to find out, do various lots of combinations of letters and special characters and numbers. They have to correctly identify this one. It means that they have to correctly identify the input for which they will get a hash code which is equal to, that means that hash 3 should be equal to hash 2. They should create a hash code which is equivalent to this hash 2. It means that they identified my private key. So once they identify my private key, then they will have the access of my account, right? Then they will check the validity whether I have 100 bitcoins or not. Now is it clear?
I understand.
I have a doubt.
But I have a doubt following this, ma'am.
Yes, please.
That it's equivalent to saying that they are getting the password of my account and they're checking whether I really have the amount.
Yeah.
So then can we not question the credibility because they are getting access to my password?
Yeah, they are getting the access. But next time when you are transferring some more amount, the hash 2 will be, the hash 1 will be changed, right? The thing is, we were talking about immutability. They can only access, but they cannot change anything in my account. They cannot change anything in my account. Their job is only just validate whether I have enough account or not, enough balance in my account or not. That's all. They will not do anything because whatever you make any changes in my record, everything will be reflected to someone else, right? Immediately, the miner who is doing all these things will be caught.
No, that's fine. That's fine. So even my doubt was the same thing. See, once the miner gets the hash 1 and hash 2 decrypted, so I can access your account and I can transfer whatever the fund value you have. Then Cassini after that.
The request should be raised by this person only, right? He cannot raise a request.
I didn't get you.
The person who has this account can raise a request.
Yeah, see, once the miner gets my user ID and password, he can directly log into my account and he can do anything, right?
Yeah, he can do anything. But the thing is, suppose if we want to transfer means, then immediately I will come to know that, right?
Yeah, there is
Immediately I
no.
will come to know that.
No, I don't think there is a second factor authentication in this transaction because see, once I get the user ID and password, see, getting caught is the secondary thing. But initially, I can initiate the transaction and transfer it to some other account, right? Will there be any time limit that before the bitcoins, number of bitcoins, whichever I transfer gets credited to the receiver's account? Will there be any timeline to prevent that transaction if it is a fraudulent one?
So your point is valid, but the thing is, so whenever they identified that private key as a hash code, right? So the thing is, they are creating some kind of input, right, which is equivalent to this hash code. Then immediately they can access and they can just verify whether they have the success balance or not. But they will not do any transactions
No,
on
it is their
behalf of
job
this
to do it. No,
Yeah.
I understand. It is their job to do it. It is their job to validate whether the sender has got the balance or not. But there are malicious intention miners as well,
there are
right?
possibilities. There are possibilities. That the thing is, here the trust becomes an important one. The thing is, this person should have a trust on that the miners will not do any hack. So that is if you take the adaptability rate of blockchain, so many of the persons are not accommodating this kind of technology because. So why should I share my private key to this person? Your question is 100% valid. Why this person? Why I should reveal my private key to this person? Right. So they should have some kind of trust among the participants in the blockchain. So with some kind of trust only we can do this.
Yeah, I understand, but we don't have any stringent recruitment mechanism for miners, right? Anyone can become a miner if they have the capacity to invest.
Anyone can become a miner. Anyone can become a miner. So
Yeah,
there are still we have some disadvantages with this blockchain technology.
Okay.
But the only thing is based on security as well as the immutability features of blockchain. They are still many people are following this blockchain technology for Bitcoin transaction, but your question is completely valid. Shall I move?
Okay. Okay, ma'am. Yeah.
But the only thing is we should have a trust that they will not cheat us. And the next important feature is distributed ledger and peer-to-peer network. So as we discussed earlier, all the participants in the blockchain network will have the a copy of the ledger, right? So here in this case, if you look at here, there are 4 participants, and Andy transfer some $10 to Bobby, and Bobby transfers Derby to $3, and Derby transfers Cindy to $1. So here, look at, there are 3 transactions happen. All the transactions will be captured with this timestamp, and all the copy of all transactions will be distributed across all the participants in the distributed ledger. Okay, so this is the important thing. And suppose if this person in this Andy has some problem with his computer and he is not able to get the transactions, then he can get the copy of the digital ledger from somebody else. Okay, so immediately you can get all the transactions from the Genesis block. Suppose if you want to participate in as a participant in any of the blockchain, within 24 hours you will get the complete transactions happen in the blockchain from the Genesis block. Okay, and so this already we discussed. So minus job is they have to solve a complex mathematical puzzle to get the correct input of the hash code. So for that they have to spend a lot of computational effort and energy also they have to spend in terms of electricity, and they have to find out the solution. Along with the solution, the valid transactions will be sent to all other miners, so they will also validate the transactions. So finally, based on the consensus, based on this one, finally the valid transactions will be added into the blockchain. Okay, so for every validation they will get 12.5 bitcoins, and just open this. So before that, we will see how the block looks like. So this is a demo. This is not a original blockchain. Actually, we have a lot of platforms to create blockchain technology. And so look at here. So this is a block, and in this block, so this is a space for giving transaction details. So whatever you want, you can give us a transaction details, and you will have a block number, and there is a nonce number. Okay, there is a nonce number. This is the mathematical number corresponds to current hash and the transaction data and the previous hash. Okay, and so look at here. There is no data here. There is no data here. For this no data, the hash code is some 64 digits are there, and the nonce number is given for all the combination of data and hash code is 72608. Okay, and so generally for this case, they have leading digits as four digits. They have kept these 4 digits as 0. Okay, there is no scientific reason for that. They assumed that the hash code starts with 4 zeros or the digitally valid hash code. Suppose if I want to change any data here, so for this hash code and the data available here, based on this combination of this data, this is the actual nonce number. Suppose if I change anything here, look at the hash code here. Based on some protocol, they have assumed that the first 4 digits should be a 0 and followed by other 60 hexadecimal digits. Okay, suppose if you change any data, so this is an just to explain how immutability works in blockchain. Okay, so if I enter some name, enter some number or some characters in this one, immediately look at the change in the hash code. So it completely changed the 64 digits, and the first 4 digits also not zero. It means that the hash code created it is assumed that the hash code which is created with the first 4 digits are non-zeros, then it is called as digitally unverified one. So to create, so that is why you can see the red color. It means that some changes happens in this transaction or something. Okay, and the thing is you have to identify the correct input which is equivalent to the hash code appears here, and which should start with first 4 zeros. Okay, let us start with 1, just 1. We have to, because we have to create so many numbers to make the entire block as green color. Okay, what was the previous number we had? What was the previous? Just note down this number 72608. Just note down this number. Suppose if I enter just 1, and so here the entire block looks as a red. It means that there is some changes happens in this block, and you have to identify the correct input number which will make this block as a green one. It means that it has to create the corresponding hash, which is the combination of this data and the current hash. Okay, and let us start with 1, 2, like that. So you have to try with n number of times, 3, 4, like that. Okay, so how many numbers we don't know. What combination of number will give us hash code which is digitally valid. Okay, so for that there is a button called mine. So this button invoke an algorithm which will find out the correct number which is the combination of hash code and the data. Okay, so just click this mine. It will take some time. So look at this. This will create a valid hash code with the first 4 digits as 0. Okay, so for if you enter 1, this is the valid nonce number. And suppose if I enter BCT FBP, and so for this, again we can see that there is some changes in the transaction. So you can mine the correct number. So this is the correct number for this corresponding data. But the thing is, you cannot go and modify the data. So this changes in color indicates that there is some changes in the transaction. So immediately you will be able to identify there is some changes happens in the transaction, and you will be easily caught by the other members. So this is one block. Suppose if you have a blockchain. So this is just for demo purpose. This is not an actual blockchain. Okay. And so in blockchain is a chain of sequential blocks, right? So in this blockchain, we have just to showcase how immutability concept works here. And so here we have 5 blocks in the blockchain, and each block has block number, nonce number, and the data field, previous hash, and current hash. So current hash is the combination of previous hash, data, and the nonce number. And we have 5 hash, right? 5 hash. Look at here. This previous hash, current hash of this block is the previous hash of this second block. Look at the numbers. 000015783. Here also you can see the same number. Previous hash and the current hash of this block 4 are same. Okay. Suppose if I change anything in this database, sorry, anything in this block. Okay. Because if it is a valid blockchain, then the previous hash should be equal to the current hash of the leading block, right? Suppose if I make any changes over here. Suppose if I enter 1, look at here. There is a change in the hash code of this block. So now there is a break. Break in the link of the chain. So how do you identify this? There is a break in the link of the chain. Actually, in blockchain, the hash code of the current block should be equal to the previous hash code, right? So here, look at here, this is the current hash. This is the previous hash, and so this is the current hash of this one, and there is a change here. Here, look at here. So there is a linkage breakage happened here between this one because of the change. So you have to identify the correct number over here. Now you could see the changes here. Suppose if I make any changes over here, all the blocks followed by this particular block will be break from this link. So you have to identify the correct number of each block, and you have to correct it. Okay, so you have to first mine it here. Again mine it here, the fourth block. Right? So in this example, we have simply 5 blocks. If I make any changes in the third block, obviously you have to find out the correct nonce number for third block, fourth block, and fifth block. Suppose if you have some 1 lakh blocks, and if you make any changes in any one of the blocks, then you have to identify the correct number, nonce number for all blocks. That is very, very difficult. So that is why we are saying that the blockchain transactions are immutable. So if you make any changes, then it is very, very difficult to find out the correct nonce number to get the correct hash code. Okay, so that is why we are saying that any transactions happens in the blockchain is completely permanent and you cannot modify it. Okay, so this is to explain the concept of immutability. And the distributed network. Suppose if you take a distributed network, so in distributed network means we have n number of peers. So in this case, we have 3 peers.
Ma'am, can you just repeat once again what you said?
This one?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So here, suppose you are in the fifth block, and if you want to make the main intention of explaining this is blockchain has the special feature of immutability, right? Suppose if you want to make any changes, what will happen in the blockchain? That is what I am trying to explain here. For example, suppose if you want to make any changes in this particular block, this particular block, immediately you can see that there is a error in the sense there is a red color appears, right? So it means that there is a change in the hash code. Look at here, the previous hash code starts with 4 zeros. If I make any changes over here, immediately your hash code of this block will change. So obviously there will be a break happens in this link. Okay, there is a link is break between these 2 blocks because there is a change between this hash and the previous hash. Okay, and so to correct it, actually you have to put an effort to find out the correct nonce number. To correct it, you have to put an effort to find out the correct nonce number. That is one thing. Okay, so you have to find out the appropriate number. So for this, you have to, so this mining, it may look like a simple button to you. Actually, behind this button, there is an algorithm is working. Okay, and so this is the correct number to correct this particular block. Suppose if you make any changes in the first block, all the blocks will be in red color. It means that all blocks from this block will be detached from the original blockchain. Okay, it means that if you want to correct this red color of this block, you have to identify the nonce number for this. Again, you have to identify the correct nonce number of this block. And this one. It means that you have to correct all the succeeding blocks of the blockchain. Okay, from here you have to correct all the nonce number. So it will be a tedious job, and you cannot identify, you have to spend a lot of effort to find out the nonce number. So wherever you want to do any changes in the blockchain, it will be difficult to get the correct nonce number of the all succeeding blocks. So here we have only 5 blocks, but in real blockchain, I will show you in the another tab how many blocks as of now created. So it will be very difficult for us to get the nonce number. Okay. So the next one is distributed one. So here we have 3 peers. Suppose if I want to make any changes over here, suppose if you I am peer 1, suppose if I want to make any changes in the blockchain, and look at here, all these 3 peers have the same information. All these 3 peers have the same. So in your system, you can just check. All these 3 peers have the same information. Suppose if I want to make any changes here, this particular block will be affected. That is, the blockchain with me will be affected, and the other blocks will remain same. So the other blocks will remain same. So this clearly indicates that I will be immediately caught. If I try to make any changes in the blockchain, I will be immediately caught by the others, because the other members don't have any changes, right? Yeah.
So what would the consequence be, ma'am?
So it means that so whenever there is a change, it should be replicated to other members, right? But here, suppose if I try to accommodate any changes in my blockchain, it will not be replicated into the others digital ledger, so that I cannot make any changes. Immediately, I will be caught by the other members. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Once I come to know that some peer is playing with the data, what will happen next?
He cannot play. So here the red color indicates that I cannot make any changes.
Okay.
Okay. So this is simply a demo. If I want to make any changes, then
Where is the red color, ma'am?
this color, this one. You are asking about this color?
You said the red color doesn't allow you to make a change. Where is the red color you're talking about?
No, this red color indicates that somebody is trying to break the chain.
Okay.
This color, in the indication of this color.
So you mean to say that the color changes whenever you begin to tamper with it in any way?
Yeah.
Okay.
So other members will not have any changes. So I cannot make any changes over here. If I try to make any changes also, I cannot make, because it is a completely distributed ledger, right? So the only valid transactions which is added into the blockchain will be replicated to others distributed ledger. The unnecessary things, whatever I can try to modify, that will not be accommodated into the blockchain. That is what I'm trying to explain here. Okay. And look at here, this is the Ethereum blockchain. And so before that, just quickly, so this is the token. So in the previous tab.
Madam, I have a doubt. This
Yes.
color change happens to everyone or is it only the person who's done it?
Who has done it?
Oh, not to the others. It doesn't reflect to the others.
No, not to the so he cannot change in the actual blockchain. He can change, but that will not be reflected in the ledger, digital ledger,
Okay.
until it is verified. And this is not the original blockchain. This is just for a demo to understand the concept of immutability and breaking the chain. That's all.
So whoever is changing only there, the color change is visible, not for the
Color change
others.
is visible. It means that he cannot do the changes.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. And so here you can see without any transactions. To understand it better, you can have with the transactions, with the transaction data, and with several peers, you can just play with it. And yeah, so suppose if you want to make any changes in the transaction amount, then automatically you will get a red notification. Okay. And similarly with Coinbase. So here I have in my wallet I have $100, and I will transfer some amount to some other participants here, like that. Okay. Some scenarios are given. So how the chain will break if you make any changes. So just try with this, and look at here. So this is the Ethereum blockchain. Okay, Ethereum blockchain. So this is the current market price of 1 Ether. So Ethereum is a cryptocurrency, and this is the current market price $4,146. This is the today's rate, and so this is the total number of transactions happened. And so you can see this here. You can see the changes in the market value of this Ethereum cryptocurrency. And here also, so look at here. This is what, here look at here, from one hash code, you can see one hash code to one hash code, and some ether values given. Okay, and this is the transaction data, and it happens 58 seconds ago. TX is the transaction data, and this is the from address and to address. So can you identify who is that part? But all participants in the blockchain can view all transactions. All transactions they can view, but they cannot identify who is that person. That is what we discussed in the anonymity, right? And so here you can see latest blocks. Actually, the latest number of block in Ethereum blockchain is, what is this? 1,37,49,672. That is the latest block. Suppose if you want to tamper any one of this block, you have to correct all the succeeding blocks. Is it possible, really possible for you? Very difficult, right? Suppose if you want to tamper any one of the blocks, you have to correct all the succeeding blocks. And here the miner's data is also given. Miner's name is given, and how many transactions he has done in. So here, look at here. This particular miner, Kivion Pool, he mined 183 transactions in 15 seconds, and so this is the amount that he got as the reward. Okay. Actually, I'm not a participant of a blockchain, but even I can view the transactions, but I cannot do anything with this data, right? So this is Ether blockchain, Ethereum blockchain, and market cap is given. So up to this quantity only you can create cryptocurrencies, and the hash rate is given on which speed the miners are mining the transactions. And if you look at the blockchain, Bitcoin blockchain, look at here. This is the market price. So this is the highest value of this cryptocurrency has the highest value. Ether has the value of $4,146, but look at the blockchain Bitcoin value. It is $48,989 US dollars. And look at this market price. Fancy statistics. So this is the average block size. So in Bitcoin blockchain, 1.05 megabytes is the average block size. So once the transactions reaches this capacity, then new block will be created. And in here, 228 transactions per day happens. And this is the market price. Actually, so look at here, the price on So on December 1st, the value is around $58,000. Now it has reached to $47,000, nearly $10,000 difference. So that is why I told, right, this is not a digital currency, because digital currency, the value of digital currency is always stable, but this is daily the value of Bitcoin may change. So in Bitcoin blockchain also you can see the transactions. So look at here, this is the transaction detail. And the time at which it is time stamped, right? The time at which this particular activity happens, and the amount of blockchain transfer, and all those things you can see. So everything will be a hash code. It is very difficult to find out the actual information of all these hash codes. Okay.
One doubt.
Yes, please.
You told that the value of digital currency is stable.
Yeah.
Which digital currency are you speaking about?
I'm talking about Indian digital currency.
Okay. Will they maintain it stable?
Yeah, our rupees, the price won't change, right? The value of our rupees. It is similar to our rupees, right?
No, I'm not aware of the digital currency actually. We are under the impression that Bitcoin is a digital currency.
Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency. Digital currency is maintained by the country.
I got it.
Government not released now, ma'am.
Pardon?
Government not released now. Digital coin is there in India.
It is the thing is for example, we are transferring amount through internet banking, right? It is the kind of digital currency. We are not using any physical currency, right? For example, if you are ordering some item from Amazon or something, we are transferring through the Google Pay or internet banking, right? It is a
Digital
form of
transaction or a digital currency, ma'am? Digital currency or a digital transaction?
digital transaction. It is a kind of whatever we are transferring through internet banking.
Yes, a digital transaction. It's not digital currency. Digital currency not yet introduced. I think so.
But anyway, this value is not going to be changed. It is completely monitored by the government.
Yeah.
But somebody who is working in finance or banking can support me for this question.
Okay.
No, that's what he says. The digital currency is never released. So in internet banking or the payment with Amazon, we are dealing with only INR.
Okay.
So INR's value stays stable.
But
But
in
we are
India,
not
we have
handling
this
with the digital
Central
currency.
Bank of 1 minute. I will Central Bank of digital currency.
Yeah, they're going to introduce. Government saying they're going to introduce the digital
Introduce
currency.
it. Okay. But the only difference is the value is not going to be changed. Okay. But in blockchain, every day the value, the bitcoins or cryptocurrencies, every day the value is getting changed. It is stable. It is not stable, and there is a centralized authority who is monitoring. Who is suppose if it is not introduced, obviously this Reserve Bank of India may monitor the transaction. But in cryptocurrency, we don't know who is monitoring the transactions, right? Okay, and so I have few more slides, so I will wind up in 5 minutes. So smart contracts, so there is a separate session to how to create smart contracts. So smart contract is nothing but is a program written in blockchain technology, and it is immutable. So once you create, it is a program, list of instructions, so which will help you to automate some several processes. Okay, and you cannot modify once the program is written, you cannot modify it, but you can add some new features into the program. But for that also you have to get the consensus from the stakeholders of the blockchain. Okay, and the mining concept is applicable for cryptocurrency transactions, but for other applications like manufacturing or logistics or healthcare, you need not have this mining. But the thing is, you have to get the approval from all the stakeholders of your department or other organizations who are involving in that blockchain, and you have to get approval from each one of those persons. And the contract is nothing but the agreement between parties. So here parties could be 2 parties or could be 3 parties, and these parties could be within the organization or it could be outside of the organization. Okay, and various types of blockchains are available. Public blockchain, so the whatever we discussed, Bitcoin and Ethereum, these are all public blockchain. Anyone can participate in the blockchain. And the private blockchain is the blockchain created for one specific organization. So the stakeholders within the organization can access this blockchain. And the consortium blockchain is a group of people, group of several organizations can form a blockchain. For example, suppose if you take an automotive industry, the OEM as well as the suppliers can create their own blockchain. Okay, and the permission is the combination of private and this consortium blockchain. And some of the examples of blockchains are given here.
I have one doubt, ma'am.
Yes, please.
Recently, the government talking about private currency, private cryptocurrency or public cryptocurrency. Is it different? Is there already?
Which one?
Private cryptocurrency. They are going to ban all crypto.
Yeah, no, in India there is no concept of cryptocurrency. Still, that is in the discussion, right? In daily newspaper, we are seeing those news, right? Still, in India, they are not officially allowing the cryptocurrency transactions. Officially, it is not officially approved in India.
Yeah, I have a doubt. Is there anything as can be differentiated as a private and public cryptocurrency?
Not,
Cryptocurrency.
so this is not a cryptocurrency. This is the blockchain. So, irrespective of the blockchain technology can be applicable for Bitcoin transaction. Apart from this, not I'm talking about a cryptocurrency transaction. Apart from cryptocurrency transaction, now the concept of blockchain. Concept means the basic features like immutability, data security, and so all those things can be adopted to some other applications like manufacturing, healthcare, and agriculture, right? And they are not the concept only they are adopting from the blockchain, right? And the blockchain which is used for cryptocurrency transaction is called as public blockchain that anybody can access. You can also be a part of the blockchain, okay? And the private means, for example, suppose if you make an automotive industry, and within the industry they can have a blockchain saying that they can bring all the transactions under a common platform, okay, to make transparent, to make visible, to make traceability, to make immutability, to get all these features, they can create their own blockchain, okay? For this kind of blockchain created for that particular organization, the other persons outside from the organization will not have the access to participate into the blockchain. That is called as private blockchain. So if you go to this IBM blockchain, IBM is one of the industry who are offering many blockchain applications. IBM. They are offering many solutions. You can explore all these possible solutions they are offering. Okay, look at here. Food trust, vaccine distribution, healthcare, life sciences. So they are offering more blockchain solutions. Okay, so these could be the private blockchain for that particular industry. We cannot go and access the blockchain. We cannot be a part of this blockchain. Okay. Shall I move? And the last one is the limitations of blockchain. So in the inaugural address, Dr. Sudhir mentioned many limitations of the blockchain, and so it involves a lot of hash coding and all. It is very difficult to understand for the common people. And one more thing is trust. Trust is very, very important. Why should I share my private details to somebody else? Okay, that is biggest question mark till now. We have to get the answer for that. And for this Bitcoin transaction, it also involves some transactions amount, but it is very, very less. Suppose here for each transaction, they will get $0.02 for each transaction. We have to pay $0.02. But look at the value of Bitcoin. It is around $50,000, right? For 50,000, this amount is very, very less. And network speed. The thing is, when you broadcast your transactions to the Bitcoin blockchain network, so the miners, all the miners will try to get the private key of the transaction, right? So everyone will spend their own effort in terms of computational effort and electrical energy, and finally one person will get benefits, right? And that is one problem. And human error. The thing is, we talked about 51% attack, right? Suppose the transaction could be a valid one. The transaction could be a valid one, and suppose if 49 people agreed, 49% agreed the transactions, and 51% don't agree the transactions, means the transaction becomes an invalid one. Okay, and so it means that there, for example, I could play a role of multiple miners. So in this case, I can make some forgery on it. Okay, so that is one flaw, and there is less public awareness. And the thing is, blockchain is not the only solution to solve all problems. We can adopt some features of the blockchain for our applications, but it depends upon our requirement. So these are the limitations of blockchain, and we have some more use cases. But anyway, we have a separate sessions for discussing all these use cases. And since we are crossing the time, I'll stop here. And so any doubts up to this? I have few more slides. Because of this time constraint, I cannot continue with.
How to create an atmosphere?
How to create?
How to create an Bitcoin this environment, blockchain environment?
Yeah. So in session,
Any
we have a
open source?
separate. So there is a program called the Solidity program.
Solidity.
Solidity. This is an open source. Solidity. Solidity programming language. And there is a Hyperledger. So you have to program it. The thing is, you have to program it. And on top of Hyperledger Fabric.
Is there any open source available to create an environment?
Yeah. You can create. So we have a session. 7th session. We have how to create blockchain on Hyperledger Fabric, and you will have a hands on how to create smart contracts. So you will have a detailed session on it. Wednesday.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
Our union government has a plan to make income tax for the Bitcoin or some cryptocurrency. Whether it will be transparent for every individual, the Bitcoin will be transparent to the government, or it can be made it personal, our Bitcoin values. Is there any possibility of hiding these Bitcoin values or any cryptocurrencies from union government instead of paying income tax?
So I'm not clear about your question. So the thing is, why the government is reluctant to introduce Bitcoiners? There is no regulatory body to monitor this.
They cannot
Right?
Yes, ma'am. Now they are planning it as a illegal activity. So if we are using Bitcoin or cryptocurrency, whether we will be penalized by the union government?
So if you are acting against government, then if you are caught, then obviously you will be penalized, right?
But cannot be traced now, ma'am. Who's doing what transactions? But RBI telling we are monitoring
But
closely.
the thing is,
How they can monitor
in
closely?
everyday news, you are saying that you should be very careful in investing Bitcoin, right? If you want to take risk, then it is up to you.
No, that RBI telling that we can monitor all transaction, monitoring closely all the transaction. Is it possible?
That is also I have a question on this, because in main thing is nobody can monitor this. Right? But how they then if they are trying to monitor means then there is no concept of security, right?
Yes.
I also wondered about this news.
That,
If they are monitoring means then there is no point in having.
Yes, ma'am. If they didn't monitor, then how can they calculate the tax value for using Bitcoin?
Yeah, these are all still question marks. These are all still question marks, and somebody who is
Ma'am, I think this is the difference where they bring in centralized exchanges and decentralized exchanges. If we take WazirX, Binance, and all these centralized exchanges, there we would have to give a PAN ID, which means in those cases we will be tracked. But if we go through decentralized exchanges directly on the blockchain, then in those cases we can't be tracked. So I think we'll be taxed if we go through the centralized exchanges. That is not my perception.
Yes, you are correct. Suppose if it is a centralized means, obviously you will be taxed.
it is not centralized, it's decentralized, no?
No. If any particular party is monitoring things, then it will become obviously decentralized.
Centralized.
So then the concept of decentralized will be broken.
Yeah. That's what.
Now there is no parties controlling on the transaction in Bitcoin transaction.
Also,
then again it will become an RBI who is monitoring all these transactions.
Yeah, they're simply telling, but they cannot monitor, no?
Yeah, still there are many questions that we need to get answers for this Bitcoin, introduction of Bitcoin in India. Let us see how the government is going to make the.
That's why we have a lot of doubts.
Yeah.
Okay, ma'am. Okay.
Thanks a lot. Any doubts
Thank you, ma'am.
on this?
Madam, can
So
we
we
go
can-
to your material, madam?
Sorry, yes, sir. Definitely, I will call.
Okay.
So at the end of the FTP, probably we can share.
Okay.
Ma'am,
Okay, thank you.
just to
Thank you.
reconfirm, ma'am, just to reconfirm, it means that proof of work will take the private key. It's only that we trust that they won't do anything fraudulent, but if it happens, that we can't avoid it as of now.
Yes, yes. The thing is, the trust is important. That is what I mentioned in the last, one of the last slide. Trust between parties is very, very important.
Okay.
Trust. Suppose if you are a minor, if you are able to get my password, you can do a lot of things. But I should trust that you will not do that.
I think it's the same case with banks also right now, because even we trust that they won't do anything because we already have our access.
Right.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
We are trusting the bank, right?
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
And we are trusting where they are going, where they are investing. Suddenly, this bank is under bankrupt, and this bank is attached with that other bank like that, and we are not able to retrieve our money. On some trust only, we are depositing our money in bank, right? And we cannot say that blockchain has only benefits. It also has its own drawbacks. But we have to. It is our choice to choose the best features of blockchain and accommodate into our application.
Got it, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. So now this link for attendance is posted in the chat box. You can fill the form and give the feedback as well.
And ma'am, the next 11:30 class also is in the same link only, right? Gmeet link.
Do we need to fill both attendance Google form as well as feedback form, or it will be embedded in a single form?
Sorry, attendance is different, feedback is different.
Okay, ma'am. Okay.
And you can take rest for 10 minutes, and the next session will start at 11:30. And for creating for the Wednesday session, you should have some requirements from your side. Okay, 1 minute I will share. System requirements. I will take and get back to you.
Do we need to still connect on the line, or we can left from the meeting and we can
You can
rejoin?
leave and you can rejoin again.
Fine. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.